Marci Shimoff is up next and is the absolute authority on happiness, success, and unconditional love. And you'll see that unconditional love starts with love for yourself. Get in on how to be happy for no reason and transform your financial life right now in this interview. Marci, thank you so much for having us in your beautiful home. Thank you so much for hosting.
So happy to have you here. It's just a joy.
I can't wait to hear about your journey into your books and what you're doing now. So tell us your story.
So people are always wondering, I wrote the book Happy for No Reason, and they always think, well, Marci, you were born happy, right? And the answer is absolutely not. I was born depressed. I say that I came out of the womb with existential angst. I had great parents, wonderful family, everything around me was right, but I felt like I was just had a dark cloud around me throughout my early years, and in my teens I solved it by sugar was my solution, and I became a sugar addict early on. By the time I was in high school, I was about 40 pounds overweight, so that didn't help matters. And so when I was in my 20s, Kristi, I decided I was going to set 5 goals for myself, and once I reached those goals, that would make me happy. I just wanted to be happy. Like everybody, I just wanted to be happy. And I'll share with you those 5 goals because I think people can relate to these. I wanted to have a successful career helping people. I wanted to have a wonderful husband or life partner, fantastic friends, a comfortable home, and the equivalent of Halle Berry's body. Now I got 4 out of the 5. I do not have Halle Berry's body, but I have a body that's healthy, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And I'll tell you, I worked really, really hard to get all my ducks in a row so that I would have those things so I could finally be happy. And I had a turning point moment. I had all those things happen, and it was in 1998. I had 3 books in the top 5 on the New York Times bestseller list all at the same time. And I had just finished giving a speech to 8,000 people, and I had autographed 5,432 books. I felt like an author rock star. In fact, my client had hired a massage therapist to massage my hand so I could keep on signing. And I remember after autographing that last book, I walked up to my hotel room, which was the penthouse suite that my client had gotten for me. And I walked over to the window and looked at the huge, beautiful view of Lake Michigan. I was in Chicago. And I took a deep breath. I took that in. And I turned around and I fell onto the bed and I burst into tears. And I burst into tears because I realized I had everything on that list that I thought I needed. And I still wasn't happy. I still had that emptiness, that pain inside. And I realized I couldn't continue to fool myself into thinking that just that next thing was going to do it, that I would just get happy from that next thing. And so I basically made a commitment to myself in that moment that I was going to do everything I could to find out how I could be happy. And I interviewed all of the happiness researchers, and I interviewed 100 people who were what I call unconditionally happy for no reason. They had all kinds of things going on in their life, but they were happy no matter what. And I started doing what they suggested, and I started doing what the research suggested, and it worked. I actually, shockingly, became happy. I was blown away by it, honestly, because if you had been giving me a grade before that in happiness, I would have gotten a D+. And now I'm a solid A. I mean, I'm still a work in progress. I'm still always working on it, but I'm a solid A in happiness now. And what I found is that not only did it work for me, but now I've shared this with hundreds of thousands of people through my books and my seminars, and anybody can become happier. And to me, that's like, wow, how great is that?
Isn't that the goal of our existence, to be happy? I mean, everything we want is, why do you want it?
Right. Yeah, Aristotle said that happiness is the be-all and end-all of life. It's what we all want. Yet, unfortunately, we actually have an epidemic of unhappiness in our society. 1 out of 4 women is on antidepressants. We have more than we've ever had, and we're unhappier than ever. So that's the bad news. But there's good news. And the good news is that science has cracked the happiness code. We actually know what it takes for people to be happier. And as far as I'm concerned, that should be headline news. I mean, this should be taught in the schools. And part of the problem that we have and why we're so unhappy as a society is that we have a myth of happiness. And the myth is the myth of I'll be happy when. You know, it's I'll be happy when I make more money. I'll be happy when I have a better job. I'll be happy when I get married. Or I'll be happy when I get divorced. Or the ever popular, I'll be happy when I lose 20 pounds. You know, we just think it's out there. And the reality is it's not out there. And that's what I found, you know, sort of the end of the road is that I tried to get all the things out there and I'd be happier for a little while, but it actually didn't work in the long run. And I think what we all want is that deeper inner happiness. I call it happy for no reason. It's a deep inner state of peace and well-being that doesn't depend on our circumstances. So that's the key to all of life, I think.
So after interviewing all the unconditionally happy people, is that what you found, that they were happy inside?
Absolutely. What I found from all the research on happiness is that there's something called a happiness set point. And this explained everything to me. It was the most interesting piece of research. And the happiness set point is like a thermostat setting. And no matter what happens to you, whether it's good or bad, you will tend to return to your happiness set point, your thermostat setting, unless you do something consciously to change it. And this explains why people who win the lottery, you know, you think, oh, all I'd have to do is win the lottery, and then of course I'd be super happy, right? Well, you would be for a little while, a couple months maybe, but within a year, it's been found that people who win the lottery have returned to their original happiness set point. Same happens when people have tragedies or bad things happen. Usually within about a year, they return to their happiness set point. So the happiness set point is the key to it all. It's what we want to change in order to change our level of happiness. And here's how the happiness set point is determined. It's half genetic. Now, I was not born with those good genes.
Wow.
The other half, it's only 10% our circumstances. And see, that's what we're all so busy trying to change. We want good circumstances. That's only 10% of the whole happiness pie. The other 40% is our habits of thoughts and behavior. And that's what we can really do something about to shift our happiness level. And I'm going to take it one step further. You know, the 50% that's our DNA, our genes. Scientists in the field of epigenetics are also telling us that that our genes can be influenced when we change our habits of thoughts and behavior. So 90% of our happiness set point is determined by our habits of thoughts and behavior. That is so exciting because it's freedom. It means no matter where you are in the happiness in your past, you can change it with some specific, simple things.
That is so exciting because that means we can change it. Okay, but how do we do it?
How do we do that? How do we get happy? So I found that there were 21 main happiness habits, and they fell into 7 categories. And I'm going to go through these 7 categories really briefly, just because it's important to see where are you the weakest. Wherever you're the weakest, that's where you want to start. And for different people, it's different. And Kristi, I'm going to ask you to tell us where you're the weakest in these 7 areas. And I found that people have a hard time remembering 7 of anything, so I created an analogy. It's called building your inner home for happiness. And a home has 7 main components. It's got a foundation, 4 corners, a roof, and a garden. So here's how this relates to your home for happiness. The foundation is taking responsibility for your happiness and your life. It means not showing up like a victim in life, but showing up like a victor, like a co-creator of life. And you know you're a victim when you're blaming, shaming, or complaining. So any of those times, you are not in the driver's seat.
So the minute you say, oh, so-and-so did this to me, catch yourself.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Then there's the corners, the 4 corner pillars, the pillar of the mind, our thoughts, the pillar of the heart. Are you open-hearted? Do you live in gratitude? Do you have forgiveness? Do you have generosity? The pillar of the body. Do you have the biochemistry of happiness? Do you have the right chemicals for happiness? And then there's the pillar of the soul. Do you feel connected to the greater energy of life, whatever you might call that? And then there's the roof to your home for happiness, and the roof is your purpose and passion in life. Are you living an inspired life? Are you living what it is you're here on the planet to be doing? And then finally, there's the garden. And the garden is who you surround yourself with. Are you surrounded by a lot of roses and gardenias, the people who are supporting your happiness? Or are you surrounded by a lot of weeds, the people who drag you down? So out of those 7 areas, Kristi, tell us, what are you weakest in?
I think the 2 that came to mind are the garden, and this series, Marci, has changed my life because I'm surrounded now by women who are so giving, connecting, teaching, loving. This friendship has changed my life. I feel so grateful. So the garden is huge, who you surround yourself.
It really is huge because the research has found that we catch the emotions of the people around us just like we catch a person's cold. It's called emotional contagion.
Wow.
So when you're around a lot of negative people, you're picking up that negativity. And when you're around a lot of people who are encouraging and supportive and loving, you're picking that up too. So you want to make sure that you surround yourself with people whose energy you want to catch.
It's big. The second one could possibly be biology. And maybe that's a belief I have that, I'm a woman going through a certain time of my life where my hormones are a little crazy. So how do we do it if it's something I feel it's kind of out of my control?
So the reality is that there are a lot of things that any of us can do to create more of the happiness chemicals: serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin. And there are very simple things you can do. You can do through nutrition, you can do through exercise, you can do through all kinds of practices. Sleep is really important. They've found that the quality of the sleep that you got last night has a greater bearing on your happiness today than your income level or your marital status. The quality of your sleep. There's some research that's done that shows that the earlier you go to sleep, that around 10 o'clock is the ideal time to go to sleep, because the hours of sleep that you get before midnight are worth twice as much as the sleep you get after midnight. It has to do with the circadian cycles and how our bodies replenish.
So let's say I had, my thoughts, let's say that's my issue. And I feel like I'm good in that area, but what can we do to change thoughts and help them?
Yeah. Actually, that's the area where most people have the biggest challenge. They've got a whole lot of negative thoughts going through their mind. In fact, the average person has 60,000 thoughts a day, and for the average person, 80% of those are negative. This is called the negativity bias. We inherited it from our cavemen ancestors, but we don't need it anymore. A colleague of mine, Rick Hansen, calls it the Velcro Teflon syndrome. Our minds are like Velcro for the negative. The negative just sticks to us, but they're like Teflon for the positive. The positive just slide off of us. So if you get 10 compliments in a day and 1 criticism, what do you remember at the end of the day? Most people remember that criticism, right?
So true.
So happy people have reversed this tendency. They've actually created new neural pathways in the brain for happiness so that they notice happiness more, because they've actually created more positive neural pathways. So I'm going to give you 3 simple steps that the scientists say that you can do to create new neural pathways for happiness.
Perfect.
Okay. So the first one is be on the lookout for the good. You actually have to pretend that you're a detective and your job is to find the good out there and be on the lookout for it. One of the women I interviewed for Happy for No Reason said she pretends that she's the Academy Awards committee and that her job is to give out 5 Academy Awards every day. And so she's just on the lookout for what to give an Academy Award to. So she might be out for a walk and she sees a cute, fluffy little white dog and she goes, oh, that dog gets the Academy Award for being the cutest dog of the day. So be on the lookout for the good. The second thing is savor it. It takes 20 seconds for the good to land enough that it will start to create new neural pathways in the brain. So that means you actually have to notice it and take it in deeply. So if you see a beautiful sunset, it's not enough to go, oh, there's a pretty sunset. You need to really stop and take it in for 20 seconds. It's as though you're you're digesting it. Allow yourself to nourish you. And then the third thing is to go for a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 positives for every 1 negative. So that means every time you got something that just comes up that's a negative, you want to quickly look for 3 positives to replace it.
Those are magical. They're
They're
great.
simple. They don't
great.
take any extra time. It's just a matter of somehow simply switching our habits. And what I tell people is use your life as an experiment. Just experiment, see what works for you, see how it works for you. Maybe do this practice for the next 2 weeks and see how it works.
I had an experience early on where I wrote on a piece of paper 2 numbers that just really gave me a vision of something. And I remember what it did was every time I would go off and think negative thoughts, I could easily refocus. And this gives us so many ways to keep it inside. They're really, really great.
Yeah, and it's so easy. When you're really looking for the good, it's actually really easy to find. I mean, wherever you're sitting right now, just look around you and see if you can find 3 or 4 things that you really can appreciate. There's a saying that what you appreciate appreciates. What you appreciate grows stronger in your life. What we put our attention on is what grows stronger. So when you're putting your attention on gratitude, you're going to get more of the good stuff.
And just that reminded me, you were in The Secret too, weren't you?
I was in The Secret, absolutely.
Okay, not to get you off track because I'm loving what you're saying. So that's the mind pillar.
Yeah, let's talk about the heart.
Yes, that is one area I'm feeling heartbroken. There's a lot of stuff going on.
There is.
Yeah.
And what we found is I've never seen a deeply happy person who had a closed heart, ever. An open heart. And even amidst all the challenge out there, of course, we have compassion, we have empathy, but what we want to have is still openness and generosity and kindness and love, because that is the energy that helps heal. The energy of contraction will never make you happy. The energy of expansion will always make you happy. In fact, can I do a little experiment with you?
Yes.
Okay. And everybody who's watching this, do this yourself to experience this. I want you to just curl up into a little ball and get really contracted. And on the count of 3, I want you to say, I feel happy. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
I feel happy.
Okay, sit up. Did you feel happy?
No.
Now, you might have felt a little stupid.
Yeah, I felt
You can't feel happy when you're in a contracted energy. And that's what a closed heart is, contracted energy. But you can't feel bad when you're in expanded energy. So now what I want you to do is expand. And on the count of 3, I want you to say, I feel depressed. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. I feel depressed. Do you feel depressed?
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Just opening up and having expanded energy helps you feel happier. Now, does this mean I want you to walk around like this all day long? No, they'll lock you up. But what it does mean is that there are ways that we can open our heart, feel more expanded. And I'm going to give you one right now that'll take us just about a minute to do. Is that okay?
Explain that word, what you mean by expanded. Are you talking about your energy, your body language? What does that mean to you? Okay.
All of it. Our thoughts, when they're more expanded, when they're moving in the realm of possibility, they help us feel happier. Our body language, when we're more open and expanded. And our hearts, when our hearts are filled with greater gratitude and love. Those are all signs of expansion.
Okay.
So I want to share with you a little simple practice that I learned from a group called the Institute of Heart Math. They're the world's leaders on the heart and happiness and how it affects us. And they've actually found that 5 minutes of feeling anger or frustration can weaken your immune system for up to 6 hours. But 5 minutes of feeling love and gratitude and compassion can strengthen your immune system for 6 hours. So we're not even going to do 5 minutes. We're going to do about a minute or so. And I want you to see if you feel any different from doing this little practice. And you can do this with your eyes opened or closed, your choice. And it works fine both ways. And it's 3 simple steps.
And let's invite everyone to do it along with us.
Yes, absolutely. If you want to go a little deeper the first time, you might want to do it with your eyes closed.
Okay, yes.
So the first step is to simply place the palm of your hand over your heart. And that simple act of putting your hand on your heart starts the flow of a chemical called oxytocin. And oxytocin is known as the love hormone because it's what we have more of when we feel bonded and connected to each other. But just right now, with your hand on your heart, you are having more oxytocin flowing in your body. One of those good happiness chemicals. Now, the second step is to imagine that you're breathing in and out through the center of your heart. So just imagine your breath is coming into your heart and going out of your heart at your own pace, coming into your heart and going out of your heart. And some people can visualize that. Some people just feel it. It doesn't matter. Just your breath coming into your heart and out of your heart. And now the final step. On each inhale, imagine that you're breathing in love and ease and compassion. Inhaling love, ease, and compassion. And on the exhale, just breathe out normally through your heart. But each inhale, breathing in love, ease, and compassion. And you can think about somebody that makes you feel that way, or even a beloved four-legged, or you can remember a time that you felt that. Or you can just say the words silently to yourself, love, ease, and compassion. Take one more deep breath, breathing that in, love, ease, and compassion. And on the next exhale, you can take your hand away and you can slowly open your eyes.
I don't want to take my hand away.
You can leave your hand there too. And just notice, how do you feel any different than you did? That was about 1.5 minutes, maybe. How do you feel different?
I feel like I'm going to cry it's like a release of stuff. I don't know what it is, but it's like I'm present now. I can feel open and happy.
Yeah. So actually, what most people feel is like what you said. They feel a shift. It could be subtle, but maybe more grounded, more centered, more at peace, more in ease. These are all signs that you're moving into what science calls the love response. There's the stress response, and we all know what that feels like. But there's also the love response. It's a physiological state. It's got its own brain activity, its own heart rhythms, and its own biochemistry. So here's the trick. Doing that once is just a nice experience. It's not going to make any change. But if you were to do that a couple of times a day, and it just takes a minute.
It doesn't
take long.
Yeah.
Do it a couple times a day, and within a week, you will start to make that a habit to go into the love response. All I do now is I put my hand up to my heart and I'm right there. So, as I said, use your life as an experiment and see how it works for you.
Do you experience anxiety anymore?
Absolutely. And I then have tools to use. So it's not that the stress isn't there. It's that I have ways to quickly and easily come back to a more centered state that is going to bring me more joy and peace and love.
So my question, I jumped to, do I have to live this all? So do I have to worry if I'm not living happy 90% of my day?
Yeah. So this is such a great question. Being happy for no reason doesn't mean that you're walking around with a silly grin on your face 24/7. It means that you have a backdrop of peace and well-being. And things still happen in life. Things are going to happen, though. You're going to get upset. Things are going to happen. People die. You're going to feel grief. Those are natural feelings. It's just that you're not going to get stuck there.
When you first said that, a backdrop, I feel like with tools, I won't go into despair, like my whole life is going to go away because I have some things that can stop me from falling down to depression.
You don't spiral down. What happens is when you have that backdrop of peace and well-being, you bring that to life's circumstances so that you can shift them, and live in a much healthier way in general. And it's not that there aren't going to be challenges that come up. It's that you're able to deal with those challenges. You're resilient. You're creative.
Yeah. Well, and it gives me hope.
Yes.
I have tools now.
That's right. That's right.
So, in all your working with many women, many people, what is your experience with money and happiness?
I love that question, money and happiness. We think that success and money are going to bring us happiness. That is not true. We actually have it backwards. Happiness will bring us greater success and greater money. It's been found that happier people on average earn more than $1 million over the course of their lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty amazing. And why is that?
Yeah.
We want to do business with people who are happier. You know, it's just natural. We gravitate to people that are happier. People that are happier are more open to receiving money. You know, a lot of money has to do with our ability to feel worthy, to our self-love. And I know that this sounds like crazy, but it's true that our openness to receiving is paramount to our abundance in life. And I think that that's really a key.
That was probably the biggest shock. If I was going to say a theme for all the interviews, and it's exactly that. And it doesn't matter who the expert was, they were talking about what you're believing your worth is. So tell me a little more in your experience with all the women you work with.
So, you know how it's very hard for anyone to give you something unless you're open to receiving it? It's very hard for the universe, for life to give you abundance, success, unless you are open to receiving it. And our openness to receiving it is based on our feeling of worthiness and our self-love. And what I found is that this is the place where women get most stuck. We don't feel worthy of receiving, even in small ways. In fact, I have 5 questions that I'm going to ask you that show whether you are open to receiving good or pushing it away. So, number 1, if you receive a compliment, do you have a hard time receiving it? You know, somebody says, oh, you did a good job on that, and you go, oh, that was nothing. Or do you take it in and go, well, thank you, I worked hard on that and I was proud of that. Number 2, do you have a hard time receiving gifts? Somebody gives you something and you immediately think that, oh no, you got to turn around and give them twice as much.
Wow.
Number 3, do you have a hard time asking for and receiving help or support? Do you feel like, okay, I got to do this myself. I'm not going to ask anybody. Number 4, do you have a hard time accepting things that come easily? And this was one of mine. You know, I thought, oh, I have to work really, really, really hard or it's not okay to receive. I felt guilty if it came easily. And number 5, do you tend to downplay what's good in your life because you don't want other people around you to feel bad? So how you doing on that, Kristi?
I'm good on one of them. Okay, so how do we change that?
So here's what's happening. We're unconsciously pushing away our good, all the great things that are out there for us. So what we want to do is just first of all, notice it. Just notice how many times during a day do you tend to push away that good. And then secondly, when you notice it, just take a deep breath and ask yourself, how can I open up to receiving this right now? Such simple things, but we've got to pay attention to being willing to receive.
So I think this is a woman thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there has to be an equal exchange. Is this a woman thing and we shouldn't think that? Like if someone wants to give me a gift or give me support, I instantly go, thank you, how can I serve you?
Yeah.
Is that
That is a woman thing.
Yeah, is that a healthy thing? How do we receive but yet give?
So it depends on your intent. If part of, oh, I have to give back, comes from, it's not okay for me to fully receive this. This was a gift that somebody's giving me. Let me full on receive it. Oh, and then I feel an inspiration to give back. That's very different from, oh, they just gave me something, I better give back to them. So it's really the place from which you're coming, and feeling truly open to just, if life wants to give something to me, if somebody wants to give something to me, I am a full-on great receiver of that. And you know what? When we receive fully, it actually serves the other person. They love getting to
Givers
see.
know
That's right.
that it's a blessing. You feel there, it fills you up if you love to give. When people receive well, it feels good.
It does. And I think there are some things that we can do to build our receiving muscle, to build our self-love muscle. And a couple of them are, you can ask yourself a simple question throughout the day. What's the most loving thing I could do for myself right now? Because we don't give to ourselves either. And that when we're not giving to ourselves, we're running on empty. We're actually not being able to fill up. So what I suggest people do is just ask that question a couple times a day. And the answer could be, I could get a glass of water, or I could, go outside and get some fresh air, or I could call a friend, or I could do that simple practice, the inner ease technique. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters that you're paying attention to yourself to do what is the most self-loving thing I could do. And I will tell you, Kristi, I have experienced the power of shifting my consciousness to being willing to receive so much that I had a very hard time receiving early on in my career. And I'll tell you, I had an experience, I think it was in the 90s, in the mid-90s. I went to a workshop with Marianne Williamson, who I adore. She's a great writer and teacher, and she's now a dear friend. And I remember in this workshop with her, she said that if you make a lot of money, but you don't raise your consciousness to feel worthy of receiving that money, you will inevitably lose it. And I thought to myself, that's crazy. I will never lose money if I make a lot of money. That would never happen. Well, sure enough, a couple of years later, my Chicken Soup for the Soul books came out, and I had success that was beyond what I had ever imagined. And sure enough, I proceeded to lose some of the money. Now, fortunately, I remembered what Marianne said, and I said, oh, I need to raise my consciousness to be able to feel worthy of this level of money. And I worked on that, and then it shifted. So really our consciousness, our level of worthiness is very, very key to experiencing more money. So here's the difference. You're not going after money to make you happy. If money were the key to happiness, we'd have a lot more happy people in Hollywood. If money, success, beauty were the keys to happiness, we would have a lot more happiness there. And we see that's not what works. But when you work on your consciousness, your happiness, and your self-love, then the money that comes along, not only are you able to receive it, but you know it's not the basis of your self-worth. It's actually the expression of it. And that's where you have fulfillment along with the money.
I love the story of you didn't used to have a lot of self-love and receive, and you can fix it. We can work on it. This is not something that's set in stone, that we are a work in progress, and it can change.
It can so change. And this is, to me, everybody who's here watching this, there's a reason you're here watching this. It's not an accident. You're here because something inside of you said, oh, there's something I'm ready to hear. So it's possible for all of us. And you know what I'm seeing is I'm seeing that there's a collective consciousness happening right now where, you're doing this wonderful series, and there's so much interest in this because we are ready. The time is now for this.
I think, I don't know what it is, there's something with women. Women are ready.
That's right.
Why women? Why is this something, all my girlfriends, whether they've read a self-help book or it's crazy. What's going on?
I think that women in general tend to be more open to personal growth and to what's possible in life. They tend to have the vision for what is possible. They want the best for their lives. I've seen this over and over again. I've worked with millions of women. I lead a program for 5,000 women, a year-long program from women all over the world from 87 countries on living a miraculous life. And women are so eager and ready to live the life that they feel they are here on the planet to live. You know, we are not put on this planet to just survive. We are put on this planet to thrive. I deeply believe that. And I think women are just waking up to, yes, it is time for me to live that life that I know in my heart I'm on the planet for.
Talk to us about that thing in our hearts. If someone's at home and they have that thing in their heart, what does that mean?
It means you've gotten in touch with what it is your soul is calling for you. And that is the start of everything. Truly, the start of living a miraculous life is your intention, your connection to what's possible. I learned years and years ago a wonderful formula for success. And it's 3 steps, and I love this because it's simple and it rhymes. And they are the 3 steps for living a miraculous, magical life: intention, attention, and no tension. Intention, be clear about what it is you want in life. Attention, put your thoughts, your words, your feelings, and your actions behind it. And no tension. Live in the state that I'm talking about, the state of inner peace, well-being, happiness that vibrates at a higher energetic level that will allow your intention through your attention to manifest. So now usually people are strong in one or two of those and weak in one or two of those. So you want to look at where are you the weakest. For me, it was no tension. You know, I was really good about intention and pretty good about attention and really bad at no tension.
Can we get better in those areas? Let's say
All of them.
intention's low and we just need to focus on that and work on that.
Yeah, if you're not clear on your intention, you want to do some work about really taking quiet time to know what it is that your soul is telling you.
Okay, so you are ninja level. You're so inspiring. What about someone who's at home and they have an inkling of what they want and they are so scared? It's so fear-based and so scary.
Yeah.
What do we do?
So you feel the fear and do it anyway.
I love that.
It's
No,
you know,
good.
an expression that's very true. Having fear doesn't mean that it's the wrong thing. Okay. Having fear just means that you're growing into it. In fact, you know, some people say that if you're not afraid, you're not dreaming big enough. So we need to dream big. This is what we're on the planet for. May I share with you a story?
Yes. I think this is key to everyone who's not taking action. Yes.
So people always wonder, you know, how is it, Marci, that you ended up getting to write the Chicken Soup for the Soul books? I was the first co-author with Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And I'll tell you the story. When I was about 12 or 13 years old, a friend of mine took me to see a motivational speaker. This was back in the early 70s, and it was Zig Ziglar. And I watched him walking across the stage, inspiring people, and I got a super clear vision. That's what I was supposed to do with my life. I saw myself traveling around the world, inspiring people and changing people's lives, and that became my intention. That was my vision for my life. And I was fortunate because I had it very early on. And then, so that's the intention. And then the second step is attention. I put a lot of attention on that. I remember going home and telling my parents that I was going to be an inspirational speaker, and they'd never heard of that. And they were not happy with this. My dad was a dentist, and he wanted me to be a dental hygienist, but I didn't like blood, so that wasn't going to work. And I remember my mom saying, well, honey, you sure talk enough. You might as well get paid for it. And so there wasn't a way to sort of study being an inspirational speaker. So I did the next closest thing, and I got an MBA in training and development, and I started teaching courses in corporations, and then I went on to teach courses on self-love and self-esteem for women. And I was working really hard. I was putting all my attention, my thoughts, my words, my feelings, and my actions behind this intention to travel the world and speak to big audiences, because it really felt like it was what I was here to do. I mean, it wasn't for an ego thing, it was actually because it felt like this was my purpose in life. But I was working really hard, and I was not getting very far. I was speaking to rooms of maybe 10, 20, 30, 50 people, and working really, really hard, not making a lot of progress. And then one day a friend came to me and said, Marci, you are burned out. She said, you look terrible. You're burned out. I'm going to take you away with me on a 7-day silent meditation retreat. And I said, are you crazy? 7 days of silence? I'm a speaker. I don't think I've been quiet for more than 2 hours in my life. But she was very convincing, and off she took me to this 7-day silent meditation retreat. And the first couple days I was really antsy. But by the 4th day, I really had settled down, got quiet, went into that state of no tension, peace and ease. And on the 4th day, in the middle of a meditation, a light bulb went off in my head, and I saw the words, chicken soup for the woman's soul. Now, nobody had ever thought of any specialty book in the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Jack Canfield, the originator of the series, was my mentor, and I knew that message was exactly what I was to do, and it was what would bring me to these bigger audiences. I had only one problem, and that is I still had 3 more days of silence. I couldn't tell anybody my great epiphany. But as soon as the retreat was over, I ran to the closest pay phone. This was in 1994. And I called up Jack Canfield, and I said, I've got it, Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul. He said, oh, my God, great idea. I can't believe nobody's thought of it. He called the publisher, said, oh, my God, what a great idea. I can't believe nobody's thought of it. And I started working on that book about a month later. And a year and a half later, Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul came out and went to #1 on the New York Times list that week. Now, that would not have happened had I not done all 3 of those steps. Intention. I was clear on my vision. Attention. I'd put a lot of energy into getting prepared for it. No tension. I let go. I let it go. And you know what I found is that for many, many people, that no tension step, where they meditate, or they go for a walk in nature, or they let go of that holding on, that's where the great ideas come from. In fact, Einstein said that his greatest ideas would come when he was just out for a walk or washing the dishes.
And I get from you, it's like divine timing. You just put it up and don't worry when it's going to come in, how it's coming in. Just release it. And
You release it. You plant the seed. You know, when you plant a seed in a garden, you plant the seed. That's your intention. You water it. You tend to it. You take care of it. But that's your attention. But you don't dig it up waiting for it to see if it's working. You let go. You trust. That no tension piece is trusting in the process, and that there is right timing for things. You know, there's a beautiful saying. Some people say, oh, but, I didn't get that job I wanted, or this thing didn't happen when I wanted it to. Rejection is God's protection. When that doesn't happen, it's because something better is waiting to happen. So just live in a state of trust as well.
You've worked with so many women. Tell me one example, one of your favorite stories where someone has done some of these tips and things change.
I cannot tell you how many times people have said to me that doing these practices for happiness or some of these tips have changed their lives. Well, perhaps one of the most dramatic was I had just given a speech on happiness. Big audience, and there was this long line of people waiting to get their book signed. And I could see there was a woman about 5 rows, 5 people waiting for me, and she was just hysterically crying. And by the time she got up to me, she was even more hysterically crying, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I said? What have I done? And she takes my hand, and she says, Marci, you changed my life. She said, I was going to commit suicide before I read your book. But I read your book, I read Happy for No Reason. I realized that life is worth living and that I can make the change in my life. And I started doing these practices, and my life is a different life. So I of course was in tears with her upon hearing that, and I've heard these kinds of things over and over again. But it's not just the extreme situations. It's also just people saying, I was in a job I hated, and I got the courage to change, to follow my passion, to follow my soul. And now I've got this beautiful business that I love, that's whatever it is, growing flowers, and I am so happy because I followed my soul, followed my passion.
And I would wrap it up there, but I have that burning. I want you to reassure us. I want you to reassure us that that inner knowing, even if it's scary, even if we're afraid, is the right way to go.
What I want you to do is I want you to imagine your life 6 months from now. And again, let's put your hand on your heart and imagine your life 6 months from now. If you have gone after what it was you said you were going to go after, or maybe a year from now, and imagine that that has happened, and notice how you feel in your body. And tell me, how do you feel in your body as though that has happened? So, Kristi, what do you say?
100% yes. 1,000% yes.
Your heart and soul knows if you can just feel into the future as though it has happened. It's okay that the fear is there. The fear is there to help you break through your boundaries, your challenges. It's a good thing. Bless the fear. Praise the fear. Feel gratitude that you are stepping into something that is a stretch for you. I want to just say one thing about gratitude, because gratitude is truly the fast track to happiness, to everything that you want in your life. But it's radical gratitude. It's not just gratitude for all the good that's around you. I say be grateful for the good that you have. Be grateful for the challenges, the yucky stuff, the fear. Be grateful for that. And be grateful for the future things that you want to have happen. Be grateful in these 3 ways. Gratitude for what you have now that you love. Gratitude for what you have now that's challenging and hard. And gratitude for your future. And that's radical gratitude.
Wow. Thank you for changing my life in, 45 minutes. I so appreciate it. I have so much gratitude. When I say the millionaire within her, that's what the series is called. What does that make you think of? What do you want to say about that?
What I have to say is that the millionaire within her means that you are living that abundant life in every way that you are here on this planet to live. That's an abundance of love, an abundance of happiness, an abundance of material things in whatever way you can best use them. It's really being that steward of the spark of life within, the light within you to live a full-on life. And I have to say, people often ask me, is it selfish to want to live this grand life, to want to live the millionaire within? And I have to say it's the least selfish thing that you can do, because when you are living your best life, it helps affect the people around you and everybody on this planet. There's a beautiful Chinese proverb. It goes like this. It says, when there is light in the soul, there will be beauty in the person. When there is beauty in the person, there will be harmony in the house. When there is harmony in the house, there will be order in the nation. And when there is order in the nation, there will be peace in this world. And my prayer and my wish for every single one of us is that we know that light within ourselves. And through that, we help create peace here on this planet of ours.
Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. We needed to hear you today. It's been such a gift. I think you need to be heard around the world all the time.
Thank you. It's been a great joy to do this, and I love what you are up to. May this be met with huge success in every way so that we all know the millionaire within.
Marci is the female face of the biggest self-help book phenomenon in history. After that inspiring interview, I think my self-esteem bumped up a few notches. And how about you?
Hello, Miss Elizabeth.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad